First day nerves. Natalie Brooks checked her reflection one last time in the lobby mirror of Blake Media Tower. Her navy blue dress was professional, but affordable. Bought from a clearance sale 3 weeks ago. At 24 years old, she had worked hard to get here. 3 jobs during college, student loans that would take years to repay, and countless rejection letters had led to this moment. An internship at one of America's most powerful media companies. The building stretched 60 floors into the Chicago sky. Glass and steel reflected the morning sun, making the whole structure gleam like a diamond. Natalie took a deep breath and walked through the revolving doors. The lobby was massive. Marble floors polished to perfection. Modern art hung on white walls. Well-dressed people moved with purpose, their shoes clicking against the stone. Everyone looked important, like they belonged. Natalie suddenly felt very small. You must be Natalie. A warm voice pulled her from her thoughts. A woman in her 50s approached with a kind smile. Her gray hair was styled perfectly, and her burgundy suit spoke of quiet elegance. I'm Beverly Wright, executive assistant to Mr. Blake. Welcome to Blake Media. Thank you so much, Natalie replied, hoping her nervousness didn't show. I'm excited to be here. Beverly's eyes held a knowing warmth. Mr. Blake likes to meet all new interns personally. He's finishing a meeting right now, but he'll see you at 9 sharp. He values punctuality. The words carried a gentle warning. Natalie made a mental note as Beverly led her to the elevator bank. They rode up in silence, the numbers climbing higher and higher. 55, 56, 57. Meeting the Ice King. The executive floor was different from the busy lobby. Quieter, more refined. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered breathtaking views of Lake Michigan. The carpet was thick and cream-colored. Everything whispered of money and power. Beverly showed her to a small waiting area outside a massive corner office. Through the glass walls, Natalie could see a man standing with his back to them. He was on the phone, one hand in his pocket, looking out at the city below. Even from behind, his presence was commanding. That's him, Beverly said softly. Cameron Blake. Natalie had researched him thoroughly. 37 years old. Self-made billionaire who had built Blake Media from a single radio station into a multimedia empire. No scandals. No public relationships. No social media presence. The business magazines called him brilliant but cold. His employees called him the Ice King. The office door opened and Cameron Blake turned around. Natalie's breath caught unexpectedly. Tall, probably 6'2". Dark hair with hints of silver at the temples. Sharp jawline. But it was his eyes that stopped her. Deep blue like the ocean during a storm. They swept across the room with careful precision and landed on her. For exactly 3 seconds. Something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition of something unnamed. Then his professional mask returned. Miss Brooks. His voice was smooth and controlled. Not warm, but not unkind. Please come in. An unexpected connection. His office was exactly what she expected. Minimalist furniture. Expensive art. A desk that probably cost more than her car. But what surprised her were the books. Shelves lined one wall, filled with everything from business strategy to classic literature. She spotted her favorite novel, The Great Gatsby, sitting among them. Have a seat. Cameron gestured to a leather chair across from his desk. He sat down, folding his hands on the polished surface. Tell me why you chose Blake Media. It was clearly a test. Natalie chose her words carefully. Because you've built something that matters. You didn't just create another media company. You created platforms that give voices to people who wouldn't otherwise be heard. Your documentary division won 3 awards last year for stories that changed laws and saved lives. Something shifted in his expression. A slight softening around his eyes. Most people talk about our profit margins, or market share. Those are important, she acknowledged. But they're not why I wanted to work here. He studied her for a long moment. The silence should have been uncomfortable, but it wasn't. It felt like he was really seeing her, not just evaluating her resume. You'll start in the marketing department, he said finally. But I want you to observe different divisions. Understand how everything connects. Can you do that? Yes, sir. Cameron, he corrected softly. When it's just us, call me Cameron. The request surprised her. From everything she had heard, Cameron Blake didn't do casual or personal. Yet here he was, offering a small bridge across the professional distance. Late-night lessons, the first week passed in a blur. Natalie threw herself into learning everything. She shadowed the marketing team, sat in on strategy meetings, and stayed late reviewing campaign reports. Blake Media was fascinating, complex, alive with creative energy. It was Thursday night, nearly 8 o'clock, when she realized she wasn't alone on the floor. Light spilled from Cameron's office. Through the glass walls, she could see him at his desk, tie loosened. Reading documents with intense focus, she should leave. Go home to her tiny apartment. But curiosity pulled her forward. She knocked softly on his doorframe. He looked up, surprise crossing his features. Miss Brooks. You're here late, so are you. She stepped inside. I was reviewing the Henderson campaign files. There's something that doesn't make sense. Interest sparked in his eyes. Show me. For the next hour, they worked together. Cameron listened as she explained her observations about the campaign's messaging. He asked questions that made her think deeper, challenged her assumptions. But he also laughed when she made a joke about corporate jargon, and the sound was warm and genuine. You have good instincts, he said finally, leaning back in his chair. Most people see what they're told to see. You look deeper. My mother used to say that details tell the truth, Natalie replied. The big picture can lie, but small things reveal what's really happening. Your mother sounds wise. She was. The past tense slipped out before she could stop it. She passed away 2 years ago. Cameron's expression softened with real sympathy. I'm sorry. Losing a parent is never easy. You sound like you understand. My mother died when I was 15. Stood and moved to the window, hands in his pockets. Heart attack. Sudden and unexpected. One day she was there, and the next she wasn't. The vulnerability in his voice surprised her. This wasn't the cold CEO everyone talked about. This was a man who had loved and lost and still carried the weight of that pain. Is that why you work so hard? She asked gently. To make her proud? He turned to look at her, and something electric passed between them. Maybe, or maybe I'm trying to prove I'm worth something beyond my last name. Dangerous territory the moment stretched between them. Outside, the city lights twinkled like fallen stars. Inside, the air felt charged with possibility and danger. They were alone. The professional boundaries between them suddenly seemed very thin. I should go, Natalie said, though she didn't move. It's late, yes. Cameron's voice was rough. You should. But neither of them moved. They stood there, separated by 10 feet of expensive carpet, connected by something neither could name. Something that felt important and terrifying at the same time. Beverly's voice suddenly echoed from the outer office. Mr. Blake, your car is waiting downstairs. The spell broke. They stepped apart, though they hadn't realized they had moved closer. Cameron cleared his throat, his professional mask sliding back into place. Thank you for staying late, Miss Brooks. Your insights on the Henderson campaign were valuable. Of course, her voice sounded steadier than she felt. Have a good night. Walk into the elevator. Natalie's heart raced. She pressed the button and waited, acutely aware that Cameron was probably watching from his office. The doors opened, and she stepped inside, catching one last glimpse of his silhouette against the windows. As the elevator descended, one thought echoed in her mind. She was falling for a man who could destroy her career with a single word. And the terrifying part was that she wasn't sure she cared. Secret moments the next morning felt different. Natalie arrived at Blake Media with butterflies in her stomach that had nothing to do with work. She told herself it was professional interest. Cameron Blake was brilliant, and learning from him was an opportunity. But her racing pulse, when the elevator doors opened, told a different story. Tyler Jensen, fellow intern from the finance department, greeted her with coffee and a knowing smile. They had bonded during orientation week, both outsiders trying to navigate the corporate world. Tyler was 25, from a small town in Ohio, and refreshingly honest about everything. You look different, he said, handing her the cup. Good different. What happened? Nothing happened. The lie felt obvious even to her own ears. Just excited about the Henderson project. Tyler raised an eyebrow but didn't push. Well, Rebecca Hart wants to see you. Something about a special assignment. Rebecca Hart was the senior marketing director. 42 years old, sharp as a knife, and respected throughout the industry. Her corner office was smaller than Cameron's, but equally impressive. Awards lined her shelves. Campaign posters covered one wall. Natalie, come in. Rebecca's smile was warm but calculating. I've been hearing good things about you. Mr. Blake specifically mentioned your analysis of the Henderson campaign. He'd crept up Natalie's neck. I just noticed some inconsistencies in the messaging. You notice what 3 senior analysts missed? Rebecca leaned forward. I'm putting you on the Westfield account. It's our biggest client this quarter. Luxury hotel chain, very demanding, very lucrative. Think you can handle it? Yes, absolutely. At least. Excitement was genuine despite her nerves.
Good.
A strategy meeting this afternoon at 2. Mr. Blake will be attending. Rebecca's eyes held a question she didn't ask aloud. He doesn't usually involve himself in account meetings. Interesting timing. The implication hung in the air. Natalie forced herself to stay calm. I'll be prepared. Stolen glances, the strategy meeting was torture and magic at the same time. 10 people gathered around the conference table, including Cameron at the head. He was every inch the CEO today. Charcoal suit. Crisp white shirt. Complete control of the room. But when his eyes met Natalie's, something warm flickered beneath the professional exterior. Rebecca presented the initial concepts for the Westfield. Campaign, luxury, exclusivity, timeless elegance. Standard approaches for high-end clients. The team nodded in agreement. Miss Brooks. Cameron's voice cut through the discussion. You've been quiet. What's your assessment? Every eye turned to her. Natalie took a breath and chose honesty over safety. I think we're missing an opportunity. Westfield's brand has always been about luxury, but their newest properties are in cities with young, diverse populations. What if we talked about luxury differently? Not as exclusivity, but as experiences that matter. Moments worth remembering. Silence filled the room. Rebecca's expression was unreadable. Then Cameron leaned forward, genuine interest lighting his features. Explain. For the next 10 minutes, Natalie outlined her vision. Campaigns that showed real people, creating real memories. A family celebrating a grandmother's 80th birthday. A couple's first anniversary. A writer finding inspiration in a quiet room overlooking the city. Luxury as connection, not separation. It's brilliant. Daniel Foster, Cameron's business partner, spoke up. He was 40, always impeccably dressed, with an eye for innovation. It completely reframes the brand without losing its premium positioning. Cameron's gaze never left Natalie's face. Develop it. I want to see a full presentation by next week. After the meeting, as everyone filed out, Cameron's voice stopped her. Miss Brooks. A moment, her heart hammered as the conference room emptied. Soon they were alone again, glass walls offering transparency while creating intimacy. That was impressive, he said quietly. You have a gift for seeing what others miss. Thank you. She clutched her notebook like a shield. I just think people connect with authenticity. They do. He moved closer, and she caught the scent of his cologne. Something woody and warm. Natalie, I need to ask you something. The use of her first name sent electricity down her spine. Yes. Do you feel this? His voice was barely above a whisper. This pull between us. Or am I imagining it? The question hung in the air, dangerous and thrilling. She should lie. Should protect them both. But looking into his eyes, she found she couldn't. You're not imagining it? Crossing lines, the admission changed everything and nothing. They still maintained professional boundaries at work. Still called each other by formal names in front of others. But the awareness between them grew stronger every day. Cameron started finding reasons to include her in meetings. Asked her opinion on campaigns and strategies. Their discussions would stretch long after everyone else left. Conversations drifting from business to books to dreams they had forgotten they possessed. One evening, nearly 9 o'clock, they stood in his office arguing about a campaign direction. The debate was intense, both of them passionate about their positions. Then suddenly Cameron laughed, really laughed, and the sound transformed him. "You're incredibly stubborn," he said, but his eyes were warm. "So are you." She couldn't help but smile back. "It's probably why we're both successful. Or why we're both alone." The words slipped out, vulnerability showing through his careful control. The mood shifted. They stood facing each other, the city lights twinkling beyond the windows. All the reasons they shouldn't do this flooded Natalie's mind. The power imbalance, the professional consequences, the risk to everything they had worked for. But Cameron's hand reached out, fingers barely grazing her cheek, and logic disappeared. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. "Tell me this is wrong, and I'll step back. We'll pretend this conversation never happened. What if I don't want you to stop?" His other hand came up, framing her face with heartbreaking gentleness. Then we're both in trouble. The kiss was inevitable. Soft at first, testing, then deeper as weeks of denied attraction poured into the connection. His hands tangled in her hair. Her fingers gripped his shoulders. The world narrowed to just this moment. Just this feeling. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, reality crashed back in. "This is complicated," Natalie said against his forehead. "I know." His thumbs traced her cheekbones. "But I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me remember who I wanted to be before I became what everyone expected." The outside world, Grace Liu, Natalie's roommate, was waiting up when she got home that night. Grace worked as a graphic designer and had known Natalie since college. She took one look at Natalie's face and pointed to the couch. "Spill everything." Natalie collapsed beside her, the weight of the secret suddenly overwhelming. "I kissed my boss, the Ice King." Grace's eyes went wide. "Cameron Blake actually kissed you?" "I kissed him back." Natalie buried her face in her hands. "Grace, what am I doing?" "He could fire me. Ruin my career." "This is insane," Grace said gently. "He could be the best thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes the scary thing is also the right thing." The words should have comforted her, but Natalie's mind raced with worst-case scenarios. What if someone found out? What if this destroyed everything she had worked for? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "I can't stop thinking about you. I know this is complicated, but I don't regret it, do you?" See, Natalie stared at the message, her heart doing complicated gymnastics. She should regret it. Should end this before it went further. But as her fingers typed a response, she knew she was already too far gone. "No regrets. But we need to be careful." His reply came instantly. "Agreed, lunch tomorrow? There's a small cafe 20 minutes from the office. No one will recognize us there." Grace read over her shoulder and grinned. "Girl, you're having a secret romance with a billionaire." "This is like a movie. This is like a disaster waiting to happen," Natalie corrected. But she was smiling as she typed her agreement. The company Galathri, weeks later. Blake Media held its annual charity gala, a black-tie event at the Four Seasons with donors and clients and media coverage. Natalie hadn't planned to attend until Rebecca insisted. "All hands on deck," Rebecca had said. "The Westfield executives will be there. They want to meet the team behind the campaign." So Natalie found herself in a borrowed dress, simple black but elegant, feeling completely out of her depth. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, live orchestra, people who looked like they stepped out of fashion magazines. She spotted Cameron immediately. He wore a tuxedo like he was born in it, standing near the bar, talking to a group of executives. Their eyes met across the crowded room, and the connection hit her like physical force. "He can't stop looking at you," Tyler whispered beside her. Everyone's starting to notice. Fear shot through her. "What do you mean, everyone?" "Relax. Most people think he's just impressed with your work." Tyler paused. "But Rebecca asked me if something was going on between you two." "What did you say?" "I said you were professional and brilliant, and anyone would be lucky to have your attention." He squeezed her shoulder. "But Natalie, be careful. Office romances are dangerous. Office romances with the CEO are career suicide." She knew he was right. But watching Cameron move through the crowd, seeing him laugh and network while his eyes kept finding hers, she also knew it was too late for careful. Daniel Foster approached Cameron, leaning in to say something that made his expression darken. Cameron's gaze shot to Natalie with something that looked like warning or fear. Before she could process what was happening, a man she didn't recognize appeared beside her. Late 60s, silver hair, expensive suit, and cold eyes that evaluated her like a problem to solve. "You must be Natalie Brooks." His voice was smooth but carried an edge. "I'm Jonathan Blake, Cameron's father." Duh. The world tilted slightly. Everything she had heard about Jonathan Blake flooded back. Ruthless businessman. Cameron's complicated relationship with him. The pressure and expectations that had shaped Cameron's entire life. "It's nice to meet you, sir." She extended her hand, forcing confidence she didn't feel. His handshake was firm, calculated. "I've heard interesting things about you. My son seems quite taken with your work." The emphasis on work made it clear he suspected more. Natalie's stomach clenched, but she kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Blake has been a wonderful mentor. I'm learning a great deal. I'm sure you are." Jonathan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "A word of advice, Miss Brooks. Careers are fragile things. One wrong step can destroy years of hard work. It would be a shame if something preventable ruined your promising future." The threat was clear. "Stay away from my son, or face the consequences." Before Natalie could respond, Cameron appeared at her side. His hand settled possessively on the small of her back, and she felt him tense as he realized who she was talking to. "Father." "I didn't know you were coming tonight." "I'm on the board, Cameron. Of course I'm here." Jonathan's eyes moved between them, noting the protective way Cameron stood close to Natalie. "I was just getting to know your intern. Fascinating young woman. Yes, she is." Cameron's voice carried quiet steel. "If you'll excuse us, Natalie and I need to speak with the Westfield executives." He guided her away, his hand still on her back, not caring who saw. As soon as they were out of earshot, he leaned close. "Are you okay? What did he say to you?" "Nothing I couldn't handle." But her voice shook slightly. "Cameron, he knows. Or at least suspects." "I know." His jaw tightened. "He has people watching everything I do. Always has. What does that mean for us?" Cameron's eyes met hers, and she saw determination mixed with fear. "It means we need to make a choice. Soon." The morning after, the weekend after the gala, everything changed. Natalie woke Saturday morning to her phone exploding with notifications. Text messages. Missed calls. Email alerts. Her heart raced as she grabbed the device. Dread pooling in her stomach. The top headline on Chicago Business Weekly made her blood run cold. Blake Media CEO in secret romance with young intern. Workplace ethics questioned below it. Photographs. Her and Cameron at the gala, his hand on her back. Them leaving the office late one evening, walking too close. A grainy image of them at the small cafe they thought was private enough. No. Her hands trembled as she scrolled through article after article. Social media was worse. Commenters calling her a gold digger, accusing her of sleeping her way to success, questioning whether she had earned anything through actual merit. Her phone rang. Cameron's name flashed on the screen. "Natalie." His voice was tight with controlled fury. "Don't read the comments. Don't respond to anyone. I'm handling this." "How?" She was already crying, tears streaming down her face. "Cameron, they're destroying me. My career, my reputation, everything I worked for, I know." Pain filled his voice. "I'm so sorry. This is my fault. I should have been more careful. Should have protected you better. This isn't your fault. We both made choices. Choices that are destroying you while leaving me relatively unscathed." Bitterness crept into his tone. "The articles call me a powerful CEO in a complicated situation. They call you a manipulative opportunist. Tell me how that's fair." It wasn't fair. But Natalie had learned long ago that life rarely was. "What do we do now?" "There's a board meeting Monday morning. Emergency session." He paused, and she could hear him fighting for control. "They're going to force us to make a choice. The relationship ends, or I step down as CEO." The ultimatum hung between them, heavy with impossible consequences. If Cameron stepped down, He would lose everything he had built. 37 years old. And his father would finally have the satisfaction of seeing his son fail. But if they ended the relationship, they would lose each other. And Natalie suspected that loss might hurt more than any professional consequence. There has to be another way, she whispered. I'm working on it. But Natalie, I need you to know something. His voice softened, intimate despite the distance between them. Whatever happens, loving you was worth it. You've given me something I didn't know. I was missing. Hope. Joy. A reason to build something real instead of just successful. More tears spilled down her cheeks. I love you too. Which is why I can't let you destroy your life for me. It's not your decision to make alone. Determination filled his words. We face this together. Promise me you won't do anything without talking to me first. I promise. After hanging up, Natalie sat in her tiny apartment, watching the world she had carefully built crumble around her. Her phone kept buzzing. Reporters requesting interviews. Former classmates reaching out with fake concern and real curiosity. Even her graduate school advisor called, his voice carefully neutral as he asked if the accusations were true. Grace found her hours later. Still sitting in the same spot, phone clutched in numb fingers. Okay. Grace's voice was brisk and practical. First, we're turning off your phone. Second, you're taking a shower. Third, we're ordering food and making a plan. Because sitting here letting them win is not an option. The investigation Monday morning arrived too quickly. Natalie wore her most professional suit, armor against the stairs, and whispers she knew would come. The elevator ride to the executive floor felt like ascending to her own execution. Melissa Thompson. The HR director was waiting. 50 years old, with steel gray hair and eyes that revealed nothing. She led Natalie to a conference room without a word. Cameron was already there, sitting across from two board members. He looked exhausted. Dark circles shadowed his eyes. His usual perfect composure showed cracks around the edges. When their eyes met, she saw her own fear reflected back. Miss Brooks. Melissa's voice was professionally cold. Please have a seat. We need to discuss some serious allegations regarding your conduct. For the next hour, they questioned everything. When had the relationship started? Had Cameron shown her favoritism? Had she used the relationship to advance her career? The questions felt designed to humiliate. To reduce their connection to something transactional and wrong, Natalie answered honestly, refusing to be ashamed of feelings that were real. Yes, they had developed feelings for each other. No, Cameron had never given her unfair advantages. Her work spoke for itself. Her ideas had merit regardless of their relationship. The Westfield campaign was yours, Rebecca Hart confirmed, appearing via video call. I reviewed all the initial proposals. Miss Brooks's concept was objectively the strongest. Her selection had nothing to do with her personal relationship with Mr. Blake, but facts seemed less important than optics. The board cared about reputation, about liability, about the uncomfortable questions that came from a CEO dating an intern. No matter how genuine the feelings involved, Jonathan's move, the real blow, came Tuesday afternoon. Kevin Richards, an investigative journalist with a reputation for destroying careers, published a detailed exposé. It painted Cameron as a predatory boss, taking advantage of a vulnerable young woman. It questioned every promotion Natalie had received, every project she had worked on. Worse, it revealed things that should have been private. Her student loans, her mother's medical bills, the financial pressure that made her internship at Blake Media a necessity. Not just an opportunity, the implication was clear. Natalie Brooks had been desperate enough to do anything for security, including seducing her billionaire boss. Grace found her sobbing in the bathroom of their apartment. It's not true. None of it is true. I never used him. I loved him. I know, honey. Everyone who matters knows. Grace held her while she cried. But the world doesn't care about truth when lies are more interesting. Natalie's phone rang. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered, Miss Brooks? Jonathan Blake's smooth voice filled her ear. I imagine you've seen the latest articles. Rage replaced despair. Did you orchestrate this? The photographs, the stories, all of it? I did what was necessary to protect my son and my company. No apology. No shame, but I'm not calling to gloat. I'm calling to offer you a solution. I don't want anything from you. Hear me out. His voice hardened. I'll pay off your student loans. All of them. I'll arrange a position for you at a prestigious firm in New York. Full benefits, excellent salary, guaranteed advancement. All you have to do is end this relationship publicly. Tell the press it was a mistake, that you got caught up in something inappropriate and you regret it. The offer was everything she needed. Financial security, career opportunities, a fresh start far from the scandal. And if I refuse, then I'll make sure you never work in marketing again. Every company will hear about the intern who treats her seduce her way to the top. Your name will be toxic. He paused. And I'll force Cameron to choose between you and Blake Media. He'll choose you, because he's fool enough to believe love conquers all. Then he'll resent you for the rest of his life for what he gave up. The phone slipped from her fingers. Grace picked it up, heard enough to understand. You can't seriously be considering his offer. What choice do I have? Natalie's voice was hollow. He's right. If Cameron loses Blake Media because of me, it will destroy us eventually. He'll say it won't, but the resentment will build. Every time something goes wrong, he'll remember what he sacrificed. So you're just going to give up? Let that horrible man win? I'm going to love Cameron enough to let him go. The truth revealed Wednesday morning, Natalie arrived at Blake Media early. She had prepared a statement, had practiced the words until they sounded believable. She would tell the press that the relationship had been a mistake, that she took full responsibility, that Cameron had done nothing wrong. It would destroy her, but it would save him. Beverly was waiting by the elevator, her usual warm expression replaced by something urgent. Honey, before you do whatever you're planning, you need to see something. She led Natalie to the conference room, where the board was already gathered. Cameron stood at the head of the table, and beside him was Tyler Jensen. Her fellow intern looked terrified, but determined. Natalie. Eyes held relief and something else. Hope. Tyler. Has information the board needs to hear? Tyler took a shaky breath and placed a recording device on the table. I work part-time as a bartender at the Four Seasons. I was working the night of the gala, and I overheard Jonathan Blake talking to Kevin Richards, the journalist. He pressed play. Jonathan's voice filled the room, cold and calculating as he described his plan, how he had hired photographers to follow Cameron and Natalie, how he had fed information to Richards, how he intended to destroy Natalie's reputation to force his son back into line. She's nobody, Jonathan's recorded voice said. Expendable. Once she's gone, Cameron will remember what really matters. The company, the legacy, the Blake name. Silence filled the room after the recording ended. The board members' expressions ranged from shocked to furious, outrageous. The chairman, an older woman named Patricia Reynolds, spoke first. Jonathan, you've compromised this company's integrity for personal vendetta. I was protecting Blake Media from scandal, Jonathan replied coldly. You were creating scandal. Patricia's voice was steel, and in doing so you violated numerous laws. Harassment, defamation, possibly criminal stalking. Cameron moved to stand beside Natalie, his hand finding hers in front of everyone. The relationship between Natalie and me is real. It's built on respect and genuine affection. She's done nothing wrong except care about someone she was told she shouldn't. I'm tired of pretending that loving her is something to hide or apologize for, Mr. Blake. Patricia's expression softened. No one is questioning the genuineness of your feelings, but there are legitimate concerns about power dynamics in workplace relationships, which is why I'm proposing a solution. Cameron squeezed Natalie's hand. Natalie will finish her internship in the marketing department, reporting directly to Rebecca Hart. I will have no involvement in her evaluations or advancement. After her internship ends, if she chooses to stay with Blake Media, she'll do so based on her merit, which is considerable. And our personal relationship will remain exactly that, personal. Daniel Foster spoke up. I'll second that proposal. I've reviewed Miss Brooks's work. She's brilliant. Losing her because of outdated policies would be our loss, not hers. The board voted. Jonathan was the only dissenting voice. New beginnings. 2 weeks later, the dust had begun to settle. Kevin Richards had issued a public apology after Tyler's recording went viral. Jonathan Blake had quietly resigned from the board, his manipulation exposed for the world to see. The company had issued a statement supporting both Cameron and Natalie, emphasizing their commitment to ethical workplace relationships based on transparency and appropriate oversight. Natalie stood in Cameron's office, looking out at the city she had once found so intimidating. Now it felt like possibility. "Your father called me yesterday," she said quietly. Cameron tensed. What did he say? That he was sorry. That he had been wrong. She turned to face him. I think he meant it. He sounded different. Broken, maybe. He spent his whole life trying to control everything around him. Learning that control is an illusion has been hard. Cameron moved closer, his hand settling on her waist. Can you forgive him? Eventually. Not for him, but for you. And for myself, holding on to anger only hurts the person carrying it. You're a better person than I am, no. She touched his face, fingers tracing the line of his jaw. I'm just someone who understands that people are complicated. We all make mistakes. What matters is whether we learn from them. He kissed her then, slow and sweet, a promise of forever wrapped in tenderness. When they broke apart, both smiling, the future stretched before them, full of challenges, but also hope. The Westfield campaign launches next week, Cameron said. Rebecca wants you to present to the executives directly. No special treatment, she teased. None needed. You're brilliant all on your own. His eyes held absolute certainty. I'm just lucky I get to watch you shine. 6 months later, Natalie stood at her graduate school commencement. Tyler cheered embarrassingly loud when she walked across the stage. Grace waved a homemade sign. And in the back row, trying to be inconspicuous, Cameron Blake watched with pride evident in every line of his face. After the ceremony, he handed her a small box. Inside was a key. What's this? Your new office? His smile was warm. Rebecca is retiring next year. The board voted unanimously to offer you the senior director position, if you want it. Tears pricked her eyes. Not because of the position, though that was incredible, but because he had fought for her to earn it on her own merits, had stepped back and let her build her own success. There's something else in the box, he said softly. Beneath the key was a ring. Simple, elegant, perfect. I know it's fast, Cameron said, taking her hand, and I know we've only been together officially for 6 months, but I've never been more certain of anything in my life. Natalie Brooks, you saved me from a life that looked successful but felt empty. You reminded me that love and success aren't opposites. They're partners. Will you marry me? She kissed him instead of answering, pouring every yes in her heart into the connection between them. Around them, people cheered. Tyler whistled. Grace cried happy tears. When they finally broke apart, both laughing and crying, Natalie whispered against his lips. Some risks are worth taking. Always, Cameron agreed. Always. And as they walked into their future together, hand in hand, the Chicago skyline stretched before them. Full of possibility, full of promise, full of love that had conquered every obstacle placed in its path. Because in the end, the truth was simple. Real love was worth fighting for, worth risking everything for, worth believing in, even when the world said it was impossible and their story was just beginning.